Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Matthew. I'm the lead engineer here at Life Skills Go. For anyone who's joined just after the poll got started, there's a poll to ask what you want to get out of this session. We're hoping to start running these on a monthly basis, and so this first one's a bit of a trial. I'm excited to get in and show you some of the new features and some quick getting started tips. And then what we'll probably do is follow up with you after this to see how the session went and what things you would find beneficial moving forward into the future. So from what I hear, we want to start with the new features of Life Skills Go. So I'll start by sharing my screen. And I'll get the right screen here, Google Chrome. Okay. Can I just get a confirmation that you can see on the screen? Awesome, thank you. All right, so one of the most recent updates we've made to Life Skills Go in order to make the login process easier for both you as staff members and students is add a new login page to this URL up here, login.lifeskillsgo.com. So the benefits of this page is, as a teacher, you can enter your email address and password as you'd be used to already. Or if I just remove this for a second, the input will also take the username and password of a student. So the system's smart enough to distinguish between a teacher and a student account and appropriately redirect you off that. Of course, students who have QR codes that you've printed and given to them can also use their QR code to log in on the right-hand side here. So I'm going to quickly go ahead and log in here. There's a couple of extra options down underneath the login on this screen as well. So there's the remember my username, email on this device. So if I tick that box, my username as a student or email address as a teacher will be remembered on the same browser, same device, so that the next time I go to log in, I only have to enter my password. And I also have the option as a teacher to keep me logged in for a week. So we had a little bit of feedback that the default 24-hour period was a bit short. And so we've extended that to a whole week. So you can go through the school week without having to log in again to Life Skills Go. As always, if you've forgotten or you don't know your password, you can click on the link underneath here. And we can send you as a teacher an email to reset your password. Your students will be asked to contact you to get another copy of their QR code or login details because we don't store any of their contact information. So I will sign in, it will redirect me to the teacher application and log me straight in. So now what we might do is have a quick look at some of the getting started, because I know that that's another point that we wanted to discuss here. So really quickly going through the application, I think what we'll do is talk about setting up a class and starting a lesson on the interactive whiteboard or on the computer across Zoom. So I have a few classes set up already. So in my view, I'll just click on new class and I will say demo, it's November 2020. I can spell November and I'll click create new class. So now I have a new class. You can see down here I have no students. So I'll pop in here and add some students. Clicking on the manage students button, I'll get a list of all the students in my school and I can select a handful of them. I can shift or control command click to select multiple students and then add them into my class list here on the right-hand side just by clicking that right arrow button. Once I'm happy with my selection, I'll click submit. The other thing I can do, I can either search or add a student by typing their name in here, selecting a grade and clicking that plus button. If I forget to select a grade, the grade will default to kindergarten. That's something to be aware of when you're adding students yourself. But for now, I've got students in my school, so I'll just click submit. My students will appear under here. So these are the 4 students we've selected with their username, password, and relevant grade. I can then click on these print student list or print student QR codes list to get their login details in a card format with the QR code or just their username and password to send out to those students. These are also downloadable as PDF. So you print to PDF and you can have that in a file that you can send out should you need to share that on a tool like Google Classroom. Individual student QR codes can also be accessed in a modal form just by clicking on that button. And if I have made a mistake or if I want to change the student's details to be a bit easier to understand, so I can change this password to 12345 and then click confirm. So that was the little edit button here. I'll just do that one more time. Edit the student info, and maybe this student is actually in year 1. So I can click that button there to confirm. Okay, so now I've set up my class with some students and we've accessed their details here to print off and hand them out. So now I want to pop back to the dashboard. So really important, if you're ever lost in Life Skills Go, just click on this first icon where you can expand out and click on dashboard, and that will take you back to your home screen. All right, so now in my curriculum section, I can set up a unit of work. I don't have a unit of work set up for this class yet, so I'm automatically taken to the Assign a Unit page. For today, we're just going to pick the Introduction to Life Skills Go lesson. If you are working with a scope and sequence or you have a plan for your weeks of a term, you can create a new unit where you'll get the option to say how many weeks, how many lessons a week, and you can pick from our 100+ lessons per stage in there. But for today, we'll do Introduction to Life Skills Go. It's for 5 weeks and 2 lessons a week, and I will run those lessons on a Monday and a Wednesday. I'll assign this unit and confirm that I want to add that unit to the class. Now it's taking me to the unit view. So in this view, I can see the lessons will be the same across K to 2 and 5 to 6, but I've got these tabs up here so I can choose to run either the K to 2 or 5 to 6 lesson as a teacher. Now the lesson start dates are automatically calculated based on that Monday, Wednesday selection we made from today. So you'll see that the first lesson will run on the 11th of November and then the 16th. So these dates are when students are able to access the lessons when they log in. For today, we'll run the lesson in teacher mode. So on an interactive whiteboard, or if you're running it as a class through an online platform like Zoom. And we can do that simply at any time just by clicking the Start Lesson button. This will bring up, in this instance, a bar across the top. So each lesson starts with a weather report, then it goes into an informational video on introducing the topic. We have a few quiz questions. We can tab through here to see those. And then most of our lessons also end with an interactive scenario. In this mode as a teacher, you're actually able to skip between activities in the lesson, so you don't have to do it in an order. And I'll go back in a second and show you the preview so you can get an idea of what's in the lesson before you jump in here. A really great way to have talking points with students. If you are in the classroom and students are doing it individually on devices, you can also bring this up on the interactive whiteboard to have discussions if students are getting stuck on a particular question or you want to reinforce a topic. While we're in here as well, should you need to help students log in, there's a student QR code button at the top here. And if students are on individual devices, there's a little teacher-led mode toggle in the top left here. Turning this on will actually pause the devices of students that are logged into your classroom so that you can bring the attention back to the interactive whiteboard, have a discussion, and then you can toggle that off so they can continue with their individual lesson should you choose to use that feature. I'm just going to drag this Zoom thing out of the way and we'll pop back into my previous tab. So I can just close this tab down and that will have that lesson ended. And then back here on this same lesson, there's the preview button as well. So this is just for you as a teacher to get a quick idea of the activities that are in the lesson. So I can see each activity, just click the preview button and the question will pop up there with what the answers will look like for students. Same thing with the video activity or the weather report. One other important button here is the lesson content. So this will actually download for you a 1-page PDF on the activities in the lesson with the possible and correct answers as well. So if that's something you want to put on file or something you want to have on hand, if you're not using the Life Skills Go platform while your students are, that will give you the insight into the current lesson as well to help you out. So that's really simply how we log in with our new login page, add students to a class and start a lesson. We've got a little bit more time. So what I'll do is I'll now jump into the weather report as well, and we can have an introduction to the few ways we can run a weather report. So again, back in the dashboard up the top there, and then I click on the weather report. So the weather report history underneath here will give you an overview of the responses that your students have had to the weather report, and we'll see this populate in a little bit. I haven't been in here for a little while. So these are the 4 students that were in my class, and by default, I'm looking at the previous week's worth of responses. In this interface, I'm able to enable or disable the weather report on lessons. Like we said, by default, that's at the start of every lesson, but if for some reason you don't want to have that at the start of every lesson, we can toggle that on and off here. From the teacher dashboard, we have 2 options for the weather report. We have the weather roll call or the quick weather report. So we'll go through the quick weather report first. It's exactly like the weather report that's in the start of every lesson. So the weather report will ask how you are feeling, and then you can respond with any of the options under here. I think today we'll respond with happy. And then based on my response, it's going to give me a targeted activity to help me prepare for learning. These activities are anywhere between 2 and 3 minutes. I'm just going to skip to the end of this one here. And then at the end, it's going to ask me to check in again and how am I feeling now that that activity's finished and am I ready for learning? So now I'm feeling a bit calm after having done that breathing exercise. And because I've entered into this from the teacher mode, I can choose to save this against one of the students in my class. So let's pick Alex, for example. All right, and then that's started again. So this weather report's at the start of every lesson for students, as well as accessible from the quick weather report button in the interface. Just so we take note of it, over in the sidebar as well, we can access that quick weather report as that second option down there. We don't have to be in this particular page to do so. The roll call is another great feature. I hear from a few schools that they like to use this one several times a day. So the quick weather report that we just saw is good to address individual needs, or like we said before that lesson, in order to prepare for learning. But the roll call is a quick and easy way to see how your students are doing throughout the day. So in this interface, I can click on a student, or a student can pop up to the interactive whiteboard if you're in the classroom, and it will just simply ask, how are you feeling? And I can respond to that, and then my name will highlight in blue, so you've got an indication of who's in the classroom and who's responded. All of the students can go through and privately interact with this. No other student who's coming up afterwards is going to be able to see what a student has responded with. So if you've got an iPad or computer set up somewhere to do this, that's great. And then once they've all responded, they'll all go blue. And as a teacher, you can just close that down with the back to dashboard, and we can pop into the weather report. And like we discussed before, all of my students' responses will now come up under today's 11th of November. Important thing to note here, because we did the quick weather report as well as the roll call with Alex, we've got 2 responses for today. These responses come up in order of time responded. So the first weather report result is listed first and the second one is listed second. We are looking at this interface and how we can update it into the future. And one bit of feedback we've heard from a lot of our educators is that timestamps would be effective. So keep your eye out for those updates anytime soon. But really quickly, that's the overview of how to use the weather report. Of course, if I do want to get a bit more of a longitudinal view, I can change this default date range. So say I want to look at all of last month. I'll select the month of October and click that little search icon. And then, as you can imagine, being at school for the 4 weeks, this would be full of responses, but I don't log into my teacher platform very often and fill out the weather report. How much time do we have left?
We have about 12 minutes.
So do we want to jump to questions now? Or do we want to? Yeah. Okay, so I think you know we've gone through a little bit there with the new features and the getting started. So we might hand it over now if there's any questions anyone who's online has, or if anyone has any questions from mailings or something. Let me see if I can open my chat. That's a great question from, yep. So the question for anyone who can't see it is, do the grades change automatically at the beginning of the year? So this is something that we're actually working on right now. We're calling it the rollover process. And so what will happen at the end of this year, start of next year, whenever your school's ready to do rollover, your students will automatically go up to the next grade at the beginning of that rollover process. So let's just say next year, and then you'll be able to reallocate them to new classes. We've had a little bit of feedback from a handful of schools on some initial concepts we had around that, and we are actively working on it. I believe we still have availability if you're willing to give us some feedback on those concepts, as it is actively, no sound. Can you just, is that our end? So sorry, back to the question. If you do have availability to give us feedback on those concepts, we are still taking that feedback on, but long story short, yes, your students' grades will go up at the beginning of the next year, and you will be able to adjust those should you have any students that need to either do work at the lower level or remain within their grade. I think Audra's also put in the chat a little link that if you could spend a couple of minutes filling that out, let us know how you found the session and let us know what you would find useful in the months coming up. Like I said, we want to try and run this user group at least once a month to give you updates on where we're headed, answer your questions or any questions that you have, and support you guys in, you know, bringing well-being to our students. So yeah, if you could fill that out, that would be much appreciated. Thanks so much for coming this afternoon. Have a good rest of your week, and hopefully we'll see you again next time.